today, and we're just going to continue to do our meditation. So we'll do the Shakyamuni Buddha meditation. So just kind of allow yourself to kind of meet it where it's at. You know what I mean? So you don't have to do anything special with it. Just do the visualizations and just try and make it. It's the whole point is light and bliss. Trying to help you feel good. It's great that you're doing yoga. I also do yoga, and I've been practicing was practicing for quite a few years, and then I stopped, and I took it up again a couple of years ago. So I'm feeling a lot better for that. So there isn't a contradiction between practicing Buddhism and practicing yoga. And many of the teachings from yoga were adopted by the Buddhists. So the teachings of Patanjali came down, much, much earlier than the Buddhist teachings. So, of course, Buddha was Hindu himself. Were you here in the first session? No. Okay. So Buddha was Hindu, and he was born into a Hindu family. And then Buddhism wasn't actually even intended to be a religion. It was just, this man, Shakyamuni Buddha, was, just looking for the truth. And he was born into a very wealthy family. And one day he just went with his servant and his horse and left the palace gates. And before that, he'd seen his father had tried to protect him from all the kind of outside nasties. He didn't know anything about death. He didn't know anything about aging. Everybody in the palace had to keep their hair dyed. Anyone that started to get old was kind of kicked out. So he only really ever knew about healthy, happy, functional people. He didn't know about poverty. And one day he begged his father to let him go out the gate. So they went out the palace gates, and he saw death, he saw sickness, he saw poverty, and he had no idea what it was he was looking at. And then he was thinking about it a lot. He had a child himself with his wife, and he decided he wanted to go out. He was just really pulled to go out and find, well, what on earth is all of this out there? It just looks like suffering to me. So he did. He went out and he started wandering around and meditating and looking for teachers who could teach him. And they were all Hindu teachers, so it was all Hindu meditation. And then he had some 5 followers, and they did these extraordinary ascetic practices like not eating, not sleeping. And finally, he found one woman offered him some rice, some cereal or something, and he realized that he couldn't find enlightenment or find the truth if he was being so harsh with himself. So then he ate some food, felt a little bit better, and then went under the Bodhi tree and started meditating. And he just stayed there until he understood what it was he wanted to understand. And then after that, he went into retreat, and then he went to a place called Saranath, and he taught his first teaching, which was the Four Noble Truths. So that's kind of a short, like 3-minute review about how it happened. And then after that, it just became a religion. But it didn't start out that way. Buddha was not necessarily looking to create a religion and have followers. He just wanted to find the truth. And then he decided to tell everybody about it. So it always surprises me that when I came to the United States, hi Phyllis, I was on a religious workers visa because I couldn't understand what it was about what I'm doing that was religious, but I guess it is. Now look what I'm wearing. Anyway, do you have any questions about that, Rachel? No, was it clear? Gives you some idea, yeah. And so, of course, what we covered in the first session was, Buddhism is practiced differently according to the culture that it's in. So in Tibetan Buddhism, you're going to see, which is where you've landed for this course, you're going to see a lot of ritual and different kinds of deities. And what they are doing is representing different psychological aspects of Shakyamuni Buddha. So Chenrezig, for example, is the Buddha of compassion. Have you come to any of the morning meditations that I'm leading? You have, yeah. So we do Tara and Chenrezig and, different ones. Medicine Buddha we did this morning. So they're different kind of, I guess one way to say it is different psychological aspects of the Shakyamuni Buddha. They're more the tantric aspect. And then, of course, when you're practicing in the Theravada tradition, it's very much a more simpler form, not so much ritual, no deities to speak of. And it's very much more simple meditation, although don't underestimate it, it's really grueling to do those Vipassana courses. So different countries. So for example, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, they practice this Theravada Buddhism. And then places like, let me see, China, Japan, Vietnam, Taiwan, they're all practicing Mahayana Buddhism. So I'll talk a little bit about that today as well. So let's just settle for the time being. I just wanted to check in how Phyllis and Kimberly you are. I think maybe Kimberly left me a message.
So, this is Phyllis, and
Phyllis, can you put your camera on? Are you okay to do that?
for a moment, I have to lie down.
Oh, what's
So
going on? Are you okay?
my oxygen's low, and I can feel it. And if I lie down,
Uh,
do some exercises, then I can bring it back up. So
okay.
it's like
So,
that.
so you do that, but before you lie down, can you tell us how you are, apart
Uh,
from your low oxygen?
yeah. Yeah, it's scary to me to have the oxygen get low. So I'm a little frightened. And I've had a lot of little sort of alarming things happen today. And doing the medicine Buddha, the short mantra a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but
Um, have you
um,
informed your doctor?
yeah, they know.
Okay. They know. Good.
They
All
know
right.
why. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for checking in, and you go lie down now.
Yeah, I'm gonna lie down, but I'm with you. I just
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, no problem.
all
I
right.
think Kimberly can't actually access video. So I think let's just get started. And I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you, and you don't have to answer. So let's just, I'm going to go through each one of these questions and just meditate on the answer for yourself. So it's just, and if you do feel like you like to share at the end, we can do that, of course. But I think let's just make it a private exercise at the moment because not everybody wants to share. So it just helps us to get a little bit of introspection. So let's just get into our seated position. Feet are flat on the floor, knees about a hip's width apart, shoulders are aligned with the hips. And imagine your spine is a string of pearls of light stretching from the base all the way up through the crown of the head and beyond. And just lengthen the spine. And Phyllis, if you're lying down, it might be a good idea to put a 1-inch book underneath the back of your head and have your knees up. Oh, the
Yes,
hook.
that is how I do it, even with the oxygen. Okay.
Good. Okay, great. So just relax the scalp, the forehead, the eyes, the nose, the cheeks, the mouth, and just allow some softness to come into your face. Just release the muscles there and relax the jaw, the temples, the back of the head, the back of the neck. Allow your shoulders and shoulder blades to drop down. Relax the throat, the chest, the belly, and all of your limbs. Just allowing some softness there. And there may be some sounds in your environment. Just allow those sounds to be there, trying not to follow with the mind. And just relax the thoughts that might be arising. So, what I mean by that is just watch. Try not to follow with the mind. Try not to create stories. Try not to judge yourself or criticize what's arising. And we just put ourselves now on the bank of this river and just check the quality of the water and how fast is it flowing? How clear is it? Is it moving at all? Can you see a reflection of the trees or the bank in the water? And then just see yourself sitting on the bank of the river, excuse me, and just know that while you're on that bank, you're free from the river. So, one of the practices in Buddhism is practicing compassion, bodhicitta. And it all sounds so kind of sweet and fluffy and lovely and kind and loving everybody. It's a very difficult practice. And you'll understand when we'll go through the first step to developing bodhicitta, developing compassion, is equanimity. So unless you can get equanimity, you can't really go any further. So this is the practice that we're doing in the mornings and in the evenings, is this friend, enemy, stranger meditation. So again, bring your loved ones to your mind. And those in your life who you have these really deep and profound relationships with. And then there's those people in your life who you don't like so much. And then there's us strangers. And due to this idea of impermanence, these relationships all change place. They can all change place at any time. This friend, this one you don't like, and this stranger. And they're all equal in their wish to be happy and the wish to be free from suffering and having this extraordinary capacity for Buddhahood. So even that person that you don't like, it's hard to see good qualities in those people, right? There might be some politicians that you don't like at the moment, or a movie star or something you don't like, a celebrity that you don't like. They do things you don't like. And you think they can't possibly have any good qualities at all. But of course, the ones we love, they have amazing qualities. Their potential is obviously extraordinary. Strangers we don't really care about. I mean, honestly, we don't. Maybe for a second, maybe for a minute, maybe feel bad about, heartbroken about what we're seeing in the news about various different things. But, the people who are in front of us, who are family, our loved ones, they're the ones that take priority for us. That's just the way it is. So I think we'll do this session today for the benefit of all these people of our life and by extension, all of the sentient beings. So the first question I want us to think about: what would you say is your usual motivation, or just generally, What are you looking for in life? What do you think when you get up in the morning? What motivates you to move forward? Is it breakfast? Or is it something a little bit bigger? Do you ever think about after you die? Do you ever make choices based on how they're going to affect you after you've passed away? And does it make sense to you at all to make plans for a good rebirth? Do you think about that? I mean, it doesn't matter if you don't. Have you found anything that gives you lasting satisfaction? Why is it we get tired of things after using them for a while or enjoying them for a while? What do you think about this idea of having well, in the text it talks about a guru, but really in reality, we're looking for a spiritual mentor, a teacher. And what do you feel about having a teacher in relation who is going to help you progress along the spiritual path? Have there been times in your life where you've taken your own life and other people's lives, like your friendships with people, your situation, the situation that you're in, that you've taken your life for granted? What kinds of fortunes have you had in your life? Have you had any misfortunes? And perhaps these can be opportunities for spiritual practice. And how do you see your opportunities for spiritual practice? For example, for some people, being in a relationship, a long-term committed relationship is a spiritual practice. It's a practice of working on the mind. And do you see working on your mind a spiritual practice at all? In Buddhism, particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, death is a big topic. So how do you feel about death? How does it make you feel to think about death? And would it be helpful for you to think more about it? If so, in what way? Perhaps you need to write some kind of document to let people know what you want. Perhaps you need to write a will. They're all very practical things. So in Buddhism, there's also this idea of refuge. And what are some examples of people and things you've taken refuge in when you've had problems in your life? It's like kind of taking shelter under a tree when it's raining. How do you think about taking refuge in your spiritual life? What does this idea of karma mean to you? Karma means action. Everything we think, everything we feel, everything we do creates a karma. So how would understanding karma, accepting karma as a natural law, how would that affect your behavior in your daily life? If you realize that everything you did, everything you said had some kind of a consequence, the motivation for the things you do and you say affect the things that you do and say, and it kind of alters the end result. So if you do something with inappropriate motivation, like a selfish motivation, you're going to have a different result than if you do something with an altruistic motivation. What does it mean to you to lead an ethical life? Okay, everybody, you can just relax for a moment. And welcome, Patrick. Does anybody have anything they want to share from that meditation? Did anything come up that you want to talk about, share, ask questions about before we continue? No? Okay, good. Did it provide food for thought for folks? Yes. Lou, hello. You didn't say anything. I didn't ask you to say anything last week, I think.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay.
Going over, the first time when I got out of the Air Force in 1971, I had PTSD very badly.
Mm,
And then when you talked about refuge,
mm.
I've always associated with Buddhism, but then I realized when I got out of the service, I took refuge in social justice. So I was a
yeah.
radical feminist. I was an eco-feminist. I just threw myself into social justice, and it was really a refuge because it supplied me with meaning and an atonement and everything else, and safety. So
yeah, fantastic. Thank you for
anyway,
sharing.
that's something that
I think also too we don't take into account how people who've been trained in the forces are affected by it. We're not. I'm hearing more and more this one man recently. He went and shot a bunch of people. I can't even remember where it was, but he had been exposed to many explosions, and apparently he had damaged his brain. And there's just nothing. And even though I think the army it was, they knew and they understood that this is something that's happening to these people who are dealing with this particular kind of equipment. They just kept them in there doing it. And there's enormous suffering I think enormous suffering in war anyway, but enormous suffering in the people that have to handle the machinery, the people that have to set off the bombs, so it does, I can imagine this is extremely difficult for the individuals, and how are they taken care of? And good on you for moving into social justice, from offering service to protect the country to moving into social justice. Are you still in social justice?
A little bit. I do Black Lives Matters and LGBTQ plus issues, and
Amazing.
I've
Amazing.
worked with trans teenagers in South Florida, and I still keep in touch with them,
That's
and
fantastic.
give them advice and everything. So
Yeah. So you yourself become like an umbrella for some of these people, like you become a source of refuge for some people. Because you're right, it doesn't necessarily mean in Buddhism where, we can take refuge in chocolate, and some people do. So alcohol, cigarettes. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Patrick. Anybody else? I think Kimberly said she wrote some things down. Hang on. Okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Kimberly. You just do your own thing there, it's fine. Anybody else, anything to share from that little exercise? It makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, I found it curious. Okay. So what I want to do again is repeat what we did last week. We started with a meditation on Shakyamuni Buddha. So that'll probably take about half an hour. And this is how this session tends to go so fast. I don't know. And then we'll do another meditation on clarity of consciousness. And I do want to talk a little bit about the lamrim, but we don't have a huge amount of time. But I really did want this particular set of Buddhism in a nutshell sessions to really give people an experience of meditating. So let's just do that. I'm going to find this Buddha image. Let me just pull it up first. Haven't here yet. Let's see, where is it? There it is. So this particular to open. This particular Buddha is in Bodh Gaya, and it's actually, there's a little temple under the stupa there, the Bodhi, near the Bodhi tree, and that Mahabodhi stupa has like a little room underneath it where people can go do meditation, and you can see that these robes to this Buddha, and it does seem, sorry, I've got all my lights and bits and pieces in the background. But when I go online and start taking images off the internet, I sometimes feel a bit, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, so I prefer to use my own. So this one is supposed to be quite a powerful statue. There's a lot of prayers being done in front of this every single day. Groups from Taiwan and Sri Lanka and Thailand, and which is what's so beautiful about the Bodh Gaya Stupa in India, the Mahabodhi temple, is the amount of diversity of Buddhist practices that are going on there every single day. and you see these huge groups coming in from like Thailand, and there's like hundreds of people there. And then another group will come in from Sri Lanka, and those people are all in white. And then you'll see the Tibetan Buddhists are always there doing their prostrations. They're the ones in there. It's just an amazing place of Buddhist practice, and everybody just doing their own practice from their own particular lineage. And it's so beautiful. It's so inspiring, but it's also not super clean. And guaranteed you're going to come home with a cold and diarrhea, if not, yeah, one of those two. But anyway, it's an amazing, extraordinary place. Anyway, this Buddha happens to be there. So let's just settle back into our meditation posture. And I will lead us through. And I say us because as I'm reading, I'm listening to myself. So let's just settle back into your meditation. Nice. So align yourself nicely. Shoulders over the hips and your ears align with your shoulders, and just lengthen your spine. Have your hands just very, in a relaxed fashion in your lap, no special way. So in yoga, Rachel, there's many mudras and different bits and pieces, particularly in Hinduism. We also have the same in Tibetan Buddhism, but just for the purposes of this session, you can just relax your hands wherever is comfortable for you. So we go back to this idea of equanimity. We generate love and compassion by reflecting briefly on the predicament of all beings and their wish to experience true happiness, their inability to obtain it, and their wish to avoid suffering, but constantly encountering it. And we can see this in our own lives, And then think, in order to help all beings and lead them to this perfect peace and happiness of enlightenment, I myself must attain enlightenment. And for this purpose, I'll practice this meditation. So every aspect of the visualization of the Buddha is light. So what you're seeing in that image is a photograph of a statue in a holy place. And it does look kind of reflective, but it's solid, So you imagine in front of you, about the level of your forehead, about 6 to 8 feet away, is a large golden throne adorned with jewels, supported at each of its 4 corners by a pair of snow lions. And these animals are in reality manifestations of bodhisattvas, and they have a white fur and a green mane and tail. And the flat surface of the throne is a seat, and it has a large lotus and 2 radiant discs representing the sun and the moon, and there's one on top of the other. And these 3 objects symbolize the 3 principal aspects of the path to enlightenment. So the lotus, renunciation; the sun, emptiness; and the moon, bodhicitta. And seated upon this is a Shakyamuni Buddha, who has attained these realizations and is the embodiment of all enlightened beings. His body is made of golden light. So you're looking at a light body in front of you. And he's wearing the 3 saffron robes of a monk. And these robes don't actually touch his body, but are separated from it by about 1 inch. So already you're looking at something a little bit extraordinary. And he's seated in the full vajra, or full lotus posture, with each foot over the opposite thigh. And the palm of his right hand rests on his right knee, and the fingers are touching the moon cushion. So his hand, his fingers are pointing downwards. And this signifies his great control over his delusions. And his left hand is resting in his lap in the meditation pose, holding a bowl filled with nectar. And this is the medicine for curing our disturbing states of mind and other hindrances. And just imagine, this face is very beautiful. It's always drawn symmetrically. So it's pleasant to look at. And according to the artist, according to the country and the culture, you see Buddha drawn differently. But generally, they try to make Buddha's face beautiful. You imagine he's looking at you very compassionately. His gaze is directed towards you and simultaneously towards all other living beings, and really feel that he's free of all judgmental, critical thoughts, and he accepts you just as you are. His eyes are long and narrow, shaped like lotus petals. His lips are red, and the lobes of his ears are long. His hair is blue-black, and each hair is individually curled to the right and not mixed with the others, and every feature of his appearance represents an attribute of his omniscient mind. And rays of light emanate from each pore of the Buddha's pure body and reach every corner of the universe. And these rays are actually composed of countless miniature Buddhas, some going out to help living beings, and others dissolving back into his body, having finished their work. So we are having a really dynamic image in front of us. So it's bright light. You just imagine all those tiny Buddhas going out, helping sentient beings, coming back again, almost like bees. So really try and feel the living presence of this holy being in front of you. So this is also, if you wish, if you have a teacher, you can imagine that this teacher is manifesting in this form for your benefit. And just take refuge in your teacher. So it doesn't matter if your teacher is male or female, however they're representing their gender, it's not relevant. It's just the mind of that person you're imagining in front of you. And recall Buddha's perfect qualities and his willingness and also ability to help you, because there's many people who are willing to help. Not everybody is qualified. And make a request from your heart to receive his blessings to help you become free from all your negative energy, all your misconceptions, and all your other problems, and to receive all the realizations of the path to enlightenment. And imagine your request is accepted, and a stream of purifying white light, which is in the nature of the enlightened mind, flows from the Buddha's heart and enters your body through the crown of your head. And just as the darkness in a room is instantly dispelled the moment a light is switched on, so too is the darkness of your negative energy dispelled upon contact with this radiant white light. So we just recite Shakyamuni Buddha's mantra as you imagine this kind of light pouring into you, filling you completely, and purifying all your negativities. O Taya Tao Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soam Taya Tao Muni Muni Ma Munaye Soam Taya da muni muni ma munai so. Taya da muni ma munai so. Taya da muni ma munai so. Taya da muni ma munai so. You just really feel that all your negative energy and your problems and your subtle obscurations have been completely purified, and your body feels blissful and light. Now imagine this time a stream of golden light descending from the Buddha's heart and flows into your body through the crown of your head. And the essence of this light is the excellent qualities of Shakyamuni Buddha's pure body, speech, and mind. So in the text, it talks about how he can transform his body into different forms, animate and inanimate, in order to help living beings according to their individual needs and their particular states of mind. And I guess in the Christian cosmology, that would be an angel. And with Buddha, with his speech, can communicate different aspects of the teachings simultaneously to beings of various levels of development and be understood by them, in their respective languages. And his omniscient mind sees very clearly every atom of existence and every occurrence, past, present, and future, and he knows the thoughts of every living being. Such is his awareness in each moment. And these qualities sound a little bit extraordinary. But if you know any of your teachers who've been practicing for a long time their spiritual path, you'll notice that they have certain qualities. And Buddha was just like us. He was a human being, although, very fortunate human being, but he was a human being and he had to work to get where he did. So imagine that all of these infinite good qualities are flowing into every part of your body, and just concentrate on this experience as we recite the mantra again. O Taya Tao Muni Muni Mahamunaye So Taya Tao Muni Mahamunaye So Taya Tao Muni Mahamunaye So Taya Tao Muni Muni Mahamunaye So Taya Tao Muni Muni Mahamunaye So Taya Tao Muni Mahamunaye So Taya Tao Muni Mahamunaye So and really feel you've received the infinite and excellent qualities of Buddha's body, speech, and mind, and your body feels light and blissful. So we'll meditate like this for a couple of minutes. Now imagine the 8 snow lions absorb into the throne into the lotus, and the lotus into the sun and the moon. And they absorb in to the Buddha, who now comes to the crown of your head, facing the same way as you. So just imagine Shakyamuni Buddha now just melts into light and dissolves into your body. Well, Shakyamuni Buddha is already light, but this light just kind of melts into your body, comes to your heart, and your ordinary sense of I, you know how we sometimes feel unworthy, burdened with faults and all these problems. We have all these wrong conceptions. We have all these stories. Imagine the wrong conceptions of the stories disappear completely. And in that instant, you become one with the Buddha's blissful, omniscient mind and the aspect of vast, empty space. So concentrate on this experience as long as possible. Well, it won't be as long as possible. It'll be another couple of minutes. And just really try and expand your mind. So imagine from this empty place, there appears where you're sitting the throne, the lotus, the sun, the moon, and you're sitting upon this as the Buddha. So it's very important that you imagine this as light, not as your solid self. And it's exactly as you had imagined in front of you. And really try and connect with these qualities of the Buddha and try and identify with his enlightened wisdom and compassion instead of your usual incorrect self-view. So now, surrounding you in every direction and filling all of space are all living beings. And so generate love and compassion for them by recalling that they too want to achieve happiness and peace of mind and freedom from all problems. And now that you're enlightened, you can help them. So at your heart are a lotus and a moon standing upright around the circumference of the moon, and reading clockwise are the syllables of the mantra Tayata, Om, Muni, Muni, Maha, Munaye, Svaha. And the seed syllable Mum stands at the moon's center. Now these mantras, each syllable of the mantra is rays of light. And imagine that these rays of light are actually your wisdom and your compassion. And they're emanating from each individual letter and spread in all directions. And they reach countless sentient beings surrounding you and completely purifying them of all their obscurations and delusions, and fill them with inspiration and strength. And we recite the mantra as we do this again. So see if you can. Om Tayata Muni Muni Maha Munaye Soha Tayata Muni Muni Maha Munaye Soha Tayada 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 Muni Muni Maha Munaye Soha. So think, now I've led all sentient beings to enlightenment, thus fulfilling my intention for doing this meditation. So now you imagine that everyone surrounding you is in the form of Buddha. They're all experiencing complete bliss and the wisdom of emptiness. And don't worry that this meditation or your participation in it is somehow not real or effective, that you haven't really helped anyone. You haven't even helped anyone reach enlightenment. But these kinds of practices in Tibetan Buddhism are known as bringing the future result into the path. Bringing the future result into the present path. So this is to help inspire you, this is the qualities that you can achieve. And these qualities are already within you. We just have to somehow connect with them. And doing this kind of meditation is a powerful cause for our own enlightenment, to achieve our own potential. Helps us to achieve some kind of faith in our own innate perfection, our own Buddha potential. And what we've just done in this meditation, we will definitely achieve one day. Maybe not necessarily this life, but one day. Everyone just relax. I'll stop sharing. Oh, we lost someone. Right. Does anybody have anything that they would like to share, express from that particular meditation? We just want to keep meditating. We have another meditation to do. Have a little wriggle, everyone. Does anyone have anything before we keep going that they want to ask a question about even? No? Okay. Cool. All right. So this, I'll just do this very, very quickly. There's this text called the lamrim, which is the light on the path. And it talks about, let me go back here. Just let me close my emails. So Lama Atisha was an Indian scholar. I think I've told you, some of you, this story before. And he was invited in Tibet. They had a tradition called the Bon tradition. And they were practicing Dharma there as much as they could, but it was heavily influenced by different kinds of ritual. And the motivation for a lot of things they were practicing weren't kind of quite there, from what I understand. So the king in Tibet at the time asked Lama Atisha to please come and teach. And so it was a long walk in those days from Nalanda, which is in Bihar, I think, Nalanda Monastery on the eastern side of India, all the way through probably maybe they had to go through Nepal. I don't know, but anyway, they had to cross through Nepal or Bhutan or the north of India in order to get to Tibet and into Lhasa, which I think is maybe in the middle. Anyway, it's a long walk, a long way to go. So it's quite a big thing to ask somebody, can you please come here and teach us how to practice Dharma properly? So he had to think very carefully, he had to get permission to leave. And when he did arrive, he wrote this, based on what he saw, he wrote this very short little text, which was eventually expanded by Lama Tsongkhapa. But so he talked about this idea of renunciation, of bodhicitta, and of emptiness. So renunciation is not like giving up everything. Like the Buddha felt that was way too extreme. So he talks about don't have the bow on your instrument tied too tight because the string will break. Don't have it too loose, it won't play. So we got to have walk the kind of the middle way somehow. So renunciation, I think when people first start hearing about it, they're thinking about, I've got to give up stuff. I've got to give up my life. I've got to give up my family. I've got to give up my enjoyments. No, you don't. You just have to not grasp onto all of the things that you have in your life that make you happy. So it's a bit about understanding not to grab at everything that you've got. And renunciation, so Lam Yesh used to talk about renunciation being renouncing being unkind to yourself. So it's quite a broad topic. I won't go into it now. We don't have time. And then there's this idea of bodhicitta. So we talked about renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness in that last meditation. So bodhicitta is the moon disk. Renunciation was the lotus. Emptiness is the sun disk. So bodhicitta is about developing love and compassion and wanting to benefit others. And, throwing yourself, I mean, it sounds a bit extreme, but, throwing yourself in front of a train to save another person or giving something up for another person. But you've got to be ready to do these practices. You can't just go and, cut your hand off and feed a lion because they're going to benefit unless you're ready to do it. It's not that you can't go and do these advanced practices before you've had the training and before you've had the practice and can do it. And then there's this emptiness, understanding how things truly exist, how things exist. Like we don't see things the way they actually do exist. We see things in a very distorted way, according to our culture, according to our language, according to the color of our skin, according to what's going on in our mind, our sexual orientation. Everything colors the way we think. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same for one person. So maybe one person growing up in a Black family or an Asian family in Oakland, as opposed to which is kind of like a little bit of a rougher area here in the Bay Area, or a white person growing up in Marin, which is a little bit of a more wealthier area. And they're going to look at the world differently. So, a dog looks at their house and their front yard and their area very differently to us. Dog doesn't see color the same way we do, but we don't smell as refined in such a refined way as a dog. So it's all, you can't, everything that we see is just not, we're not seeing it the way we think we are. I mean, it doesn't exist the way we think it does. Anyway, this is the idea of emptiness. And in Buddhism, it's like, in Tibetan Buddhism, it's like once you've understood this concept of emptiness and have experienced it, then you've kind of purified everything and reached enlightenment. But it's all these practices are quite advanced. So in the lamrim, they talk about 3 scopes. So they talk about the wisdom wing. So they talk about this analogy of a bird needs 2 wings. So the wisdom wing is the lower scope and the middling scope, and the compassion wing, which is the higher scope. So on the lamrim teachings, they say there's really no contradiction in any of Buddha's teachings. So no matter whether you're listening to it from a Sri Lankan perspective or an Indian perspective or a Chinese perspective or a Japanese perspective, the teachings they don't contradict. And there's no contradiction within the teachings themselves. And they're all to be taken as sound advice for your own life, really, just psychology. And we can easily see the main points of Buddha's teaching. It's easy to understand. Don't harm someone, they don't like it. Try and be compassionate. Treat others the way you'd like to be treated yourself. I mean, we've all heard all these things before when we went to church when we were kids. It's what also makes me really understand that there's His Holiness the Dalai Lama is also talking always about this interfaith, communicating with people of other faiths, because what it comes down to is all seems to me that it's all the same. It all seems to be the same. And one of the things His Holiness is always asking us people to avoid is to sort of say this set of teachings is more important than that set of teachings. So, the teachings I'm learning over here are far more important than the teachings I learned over there. So, for example, they sometimes they would call the Hinayana school, the Theravada school, the lower school. And His Holiness asked us to remove that from our language. So I'd like to do this next meditation. I could go on talking about this for hours. And we didn't get very far with the teaching section, but I'd like to move on to the next meditation. Are you all okay with that, or do you have some questions? No questions? Okay. So I don't know, Rachel, whether you've done this meditation before. Might be new for you. Okay. So we have a little bit of time. About 16, 17 minutes. So let's just settle back into our meditation posture. Nice, comfortable seated position. And generate an image of spacious clarity. So you can imagine you're lying on top of a hill and you're just looking up into the sky. So some of you are living in the desert areas, some of you might be in a city. If you're in a city, just imagine you're maybe sitting on top of your building, lying on top of your building, looking up into the sky. And the sky is free of all trees, no buildings. Have an unobstructed view. You're gazing up into the sky without clouds or pollution of any kind. So focus your awareness, just bring your attention on this luminous spaciousness and allow yourself to merge with this clear, luminous space. And imagine your body and mind, as well as the surrounding environment, becoming one with this pure empty space, becoming empty, luminous, and clear, without any sense of separation or duality. And hold your awareness in this experience of this empty luminosity, just that, without thinking this or that, without judgments, without discrimination. And this is the pure, clear nature of your mind. So just rest in this space with intense but relaxed awareness. So by intense, I mean focused. Focused and relaxed. Clear. And when thoughts and emotions arise from this space, try not to engage with them. Try not to gravitate towards them with attraction or push them away with aversion. But just simply watch them arise, abide, and watch your thoughts dissolve back into this empty spaciousness. Try not to analyze the thoughts and emotions that are arising, your mind or your experience. Just observe that whatever arises with perfect neutrality. So watch it with perfect neutrality. And then you'll notice that the thoughts will pass. So just bring your awareness back to the clarity of your own mind. And everything that arises, your thoughts, your feelings, emotions, sensations, any experience of sound and smells and so forth. Just imagine this all has the nature of spacious luminosity and clarity. It's formless, space-like clear awareness. And this is the pure nature of your consciousness. So stay totally relaxed and try and stay with this experience. Be focused, be aware. Just that's all. Okay, everyone, just relax while we finish up. So come back when you're ready. And maybe just reflect on, maybe try and bring to mind just one thing that you learned today in this session. What was the thing that stood out for you? And how has it benefited you? And can you take this thing through to your next day, through to tomorrow? Are you able to integrate it into your practice? Could be something that you've noticed about yourself, something about your mind, some feeling in your heart. You don't have to share it, just think. Lou, anything you want to share before we go?
One thing that's stuck in my mind, and I haven't figured out how to articulate it yet, but I know you've done this, get out of the river and sit by the river. And today, for the first time, the thought came to my mind, well, who's sitting at the river? I don't know who that is. So,
That's you.
yeah,
And you don't know who that is. Oh,
no.
interesting. Okay, well, you just keep thinking about that. You know, it's just a very sweet analogy from Mingyur Rinpoche to help us understand about, you know, while we're in the middle of all our stuff, we can't think clearly, and we're completely involved. We're completely not free. You know, we feel trapped. But while we're sitting on that bank, looking at the river, we're free from the river. We're free from it. And it's just very simple. I mean, I was just blown away when I first heard him say that. It was like, oh my goodness, I can introduce that. But anyway, I don't think that's what you were talking about, though. You're talking about something else. So when you can articulate it, please share with us. I'd love to hear it, because it's starting to sound a little bit Zen, like it is. Anyway, Rachel, did you have anything you wanted to share with everyone before we disappear?
It's just amazing to me that we have this idea of who we are built on all these preconceived notions and narratives and stories and who I thought I was. And it just kind of really blows me away that it's all just a complete lie, delusion, and then I read the noble truths, the right view, right intention, all of these things, and it seems like it's so easy. This is all right here for me. But then it's so hard to remember to even be a decent person every day, from to keep, oh, I got to be compassionate, I got to be this, and I need to be this, and I need to be that, and but I do cut myself slack because I know I can't be perfect every even every hour, but it's just the whole thing just kind of blows my mind, and I just kind of think I'm nobody. I'm nobody, but not in a bad way.
Right, but you are somebody. You're Rachel, who has the potential for Buddhahood.
Right. But even my name is just a label that somebody gave to me that
Exactly. Yeah.
isn't, I mean, are all Rachels beautiful and smart? I guess, but I mean, even that. So in some ways it clarifies things so much, and in other ways it opens up a lot of questions. But
That's
I
fantastic.
thank you so much for sharing your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, we're back again next week for session 4. And it's interesting too, because I think what you were saying, I have to go because I have half an hour before the next session. But it's interesting what you were saying kind of maps on a little bit to what Lou was saying about, I don't know who I am by the river. Who's that person sitting by the river? I'm not sure. But anyway, it does, all these teachings do bring into question the person that we thought we might be. But I think the hardest thing for all of us to acknowledge is that we're good, kind, decent human beings. So we just so much prefer to do the other. We so much prefer to criticize ourselves. That's just like horrible. We wouldn't speak that way to a 3-year-old, but we do to ourselves. So anyway, I think it's the biggest lesson in a way is to give ourselves a break, you know. Anyway, let's go eat. For me, I have to go eat, and then I'll see some of you at 8 o'clock our time in half an hour. And lots of love. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for sharing all your insights. Most appreciated. And thank you, Lou, for hosting. And maybe the others will be back next week. Okay. Lots of love, everyone. See you soon.